Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Talk with Antonio. I'm your host, Antonio. Today is April 23rd, 2024, and if you notice that usually when I start my podcast, I always post like rather like the applause sound because that's how I always start, but not this time. For this time around, I'm gonna be talking about an episode of that has to do with a very, very serious matter. And it's in regards to this new documentary called Quiet on Set. It talks about the toxic sexual abuse allegations towards Nickelodeon. I'm not going to lie to you people. I, for one, I have not seen the documentary. I am curious, but I don't have the Max app. I believe it's where it's airing. I swear I don't have it because honestly I don't even watch that much TV. I just watch a lot of a lot of things on YouTube and all that stuff. But I've just been reading a lot of reports. I've been reading comments. I mentioned this to my girl, and she doesn't really have an opinion, but it is what it is. But I'm going to be talking about this, giving my opinion on all the things that I've read. People that I've interviewed, people who used to work for Nickelodeon, etc. All the above. I'll give you my opinion. Like, first and foremost, mainly, like, I would say, like, the star of the whole allegations of there's pedophilia. There's like a toxic work environment. It all starts with Dan Schneider. As you all know, Dan Schneider has created a lot of successful shows for Nickelodeon. Like, he was considered like there's even one guy here that said that he was considered the Norman Lear of children's program, which in my opinion, that is comparing Dan Schneider to Norman Lear. No, fuck that guy. I don't have first of all, you could tell like Dan Schneider had like one of those. I even saw like in Kenan and Kel, he came out as Angus, and he was like competing with a bagging competition with Chris in Kenan and Kel. He had like this maniacal look on his face that he was like not a good dude, Like I said, I've never met Dan. I just see him on TV. Even by looking on TV, you could tell he was like this crazy dude. He was not really like a nice guy to be around with. But overall, before we start that, Dan Schneider got started with Nickelodeon. From what I read here, let me see. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see. Give me a second, peeps. Okay. Okay. Dan Schneider. His name is full name is Daniel James Schneider, born January 14th, 1966, is an American television producer, screenwriter, and actor. Schneider created and produced a string of children's shows on Nickelodeon from 1994 to 2019. In the years since 2018, he has faced significant media coverage and controversy regarding numerous allegations of inappropriate behavior as well as other misconduct allegations. It says here that he was born in January 14th, 1966, in Memphis, Tennessee. He created Schneider's Bakery. It's an American television production company founded on June 6, 1996 by Dan Schneider. The company's name originates from Schneider's father's business located in Memphis, Tennessee. It says here that he started he changed his career from working in children's television, specifically for Nickelodeon. There, Schneider started as a writer-producer for shows such as All That and Kenan and Kel, and before creating The Amanda Show. He also created Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, and iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat. Later, Henry Danger, Game Shakers, The Adventure of Kid Danger. He also wrote and acted in the film Good Burger, and also co-wrote, produced the film Big Fat Liar. It says here that in the wake of the Me Too movement, details of his alleged sexual misconduct and gender discrimination allegations towards Nickelodeon's employees, many of them underage, were made public beginning in 2018. In response to this accusations, Nickelodeon ended their longtime partnership with Schneider. After a 3-year hiatus, he discussed writing and selling a new pilot to a different network. The investigation Discovery docuseries Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV detailed the numerous allegations against him of fostering a toxic workplace environment, which he has partially denied. Okay. Like I said before, he has like a maniacal look. I don't know why he has he says that he created a toxic work environment. He just burst out at people yelling and screaming at their employees, very like yelling angrily at them. Which to me that doesn't surprise me at all. And there's actually a lot of like things that I could tell by Dan Schneider that I've read a lot. It doesn't surprise me, coming like he has like that maniacal look on his face. It says here that Dan Schneider, look, he has created a lot of shows, but yet there comes a price to it. It says here, look, there's a picture right here. It said that goes back to 2014. Dan Schneider accepting the Nickelodeon Lifetime Achievement Award on stage during Nickelodeon's 27th annual Kids' Choice Awards in 2014. There's Dan Schneider. There's Josh Peck, Drake Bell. Oh my! And I could see. I also see the chick who played Victorious. I don't know her name. I'm sorry, Victoria Justice. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, people. And lo and behold, they all know what this dude was really like. And the Quiet on Set documentary, I haven't really seen. I have not seen it at all. But there's a guy here who I know very, very well when I was a kid. They said they ambushed him. It says his name is Mark Summers. He says that Quiet on Set producers ambushed him. And this is what he said. These are Mark Summers' words.
I got called by these folks saying they wanted to do a documentary on Nickelodeon. And so I said, sure. And I went there and they asked me what I thought of Nick. And the first 10 or 12 seconds, from what I understand of this documentary, are me saying all these wonderful things. But they did a bait and switch on me. They ambushed me.
Mark, who hosted Nickelodeon's hit children's game show Double Dare from 1986 to 1993, goes on to allege that the producers of the Investigation Discovery series weren't upfront with him.
They never told me what this documentary was really about.
No way.
And so they showed me a video of something that I couldn't believe was on Nickelodeon. And I said, well, let's stop tape right here. What are we doing? Well, we're doing this thing. Do you know this guy? And all this kind of stuff. And I left.
The comedian, who only appears in the first episode of the docuseries, reflects on his time at Nickelodeon. However, after he's shown clips from Victorious, Zoe 101, and other shows run by Dan Schneider, viewers see Mark appear to become confused.
Sometimes I wonder if you can get juice from a potato.
Did that air on Nickelodeon?
The 72-year-old goes on to explain to host Elvis Duran that he walked away from Quiet on Set after being told what it was really about, stating that he never met Dan or knew what was happening on his shows. However, the former Unwrapped host then reveals that producers told him he was going to be featured in the docuseries anyways.
So I got a phone call about 6 weeks ago saying, you're totally out of the show. And I went, great. Then they called me about 4 weeks ago and said, well, you're in it, but you're only in the first part of it because you talked about the positive stuff of Nickelodeon. What they didn't tell me, and they lied to me about, was the fact that they put in that other thing where they had the camera on me when they ambushed me.
Quiet on Set directors Mary Robertson and Emma Schwartz tell E! News in a statement, "We are clear with each participant about the nature of our projects."
Those were Mark Summers' words. But the people who released that document just because they want to talk about something. But in regards to what they did to him, I think that was pretty messed up. But they all like. But I've always said this in the past. everyone who does things like that is because they have something, you know. I don't want to use the word right now because it's pretty inappropriate right now. And I've been reading this article right here. This is from trtworld.com. It says Predators and Pedophiles. Nickelodeon Scandal ruined 90s kids' memories. You know what? Reading a lot of this, you know, like growing up, I watched Nickelodeon. I love watching like the Nicktoons, like the shows. My favorite was All That, Kenan and Kel. I didn't really pay attention to iCarly, even though my nephew loves iCarly. Even like the new reboot that they did. I just stopped watching. You know, I didn't really pay attention to it anymore after Kenan and Kel. But yeah, you know, from time to time, you know, I used to watch before this documentary aired. Yeah, I did watch like every now and then on YouTube or other places like Kenan and Kel, All That. You know, just to relive old memories. I enjoy watching those shows when I was a kid. But now when this shit happened, that kind of like killed it for me. Like I can't even watch any of the old shows that I watched when I was a kid like the same way anymore. And it says here, the recently released documentary series Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, revealed the horrors minors face on sets at the hands of adults and the Nickelodeon staff. And this one right here is really fucking takes the cake. And this is our warning here. I don't mean this will trigger anybody, but I'm just going to read what it says here. Please be warned. Please be. I'm sorry. Viewer discretion advised. It says here that Drake Bell was 15 years old when his dialogue coach Brian Peck sexually abused him during the time when the duo was working for Nickelodeon, an American cable television platform famous for children's shows. This is what it says here, and I quote, "Think of the worst stuff that someone could do to someone as a sexual assault. It became worse and worse and worse and worse. I was just trapped," unquote, Bell said in the latest documentary series Quiet on the Set, Dark Side of TV. The abuse was constant, and it wasn't just Peck, but several employees at Nickelodeon who preyed upon underage talent, engaging in all forms of exploitation, emotional to sexual, as well as mental abuse and pornography. The issue came to surface when Investigation Discovery, an American TV network devoted to true crime documentaries, sat down with then child actors and writers from Nickelodeon between 1999 and 2004. The 4-episode bombshell documentary exposing the dark reality of Nickelodeon was released on Sunday, March 17th. Adult films alike entertainment. Much to the dismay and shock of all, especially the 90s kids who grew up watching Nickelodeon shows, the scandal has tarnished their childhood memories. And yeah, I agree. It says here that the documentary includes actors from All That, The Amanda Show, and What I Like About You. Reflecting on his experience and All That, Kyle Sullivan noted that, quote, "The show was filled with uncomfortable sketches." And you know what? That is something I've noticed. I remember one time when I was with my nephew. He was just, I think he was like 13 years old. I don't remember. And, you know, we were watching TV. I was watching TV with him. We were having, I was watching iCarly with it. Like I said, even though I didn't watch the shows constantly, but yeah, I used to sit down and watch TV with him. I used to watch iCarly, and you know that was a pretty popular show. And you know, I did notice like some like sketches that was like not sketches. I'm sorry, like some things that I thought that were not really like appropriate. I was like, am I seeing things or no? And you know, I noticed that in a lot of the shows that they focus a lot on the feet of the actors. Some of them they used to do like some pretty like, what the fuck did I just see? But when I saw it on iCarly, I was I think it was Miranda Cosgrove and Jenna McCurdy's feet that were like focusing on the camera, and I was like, the fuck? But I didn't really pay attention to that. And now my nephew saw the documentary, and he mentioned about the feet thing. And I even told him, when he mentioned that, I said to him, you know what, kid? I mean, you know what? You mentioned about the feet. I did see that a while back, but I didn't really like pay much attention to it. I was like, that's kind of odd, but like whatever. But yeah, those are like sketches. They were like, And it says here that I felt very exposed, recalls Brian Hearn, an African American who started in all that. What really made me uncomfortable was wearing leotards, he said. He said that he feels he was racially stereotyped on the show, being cast as characters like Little Fetus, a rapper, and a teen cookie seller who seemed to reference drug dealing. I always did my best not to be a trooper, a complainer, because we knew being close to Dad could mean an extra level of success. It was important to be on his good side. The mastermind behind Nickelodeon's most watched and popular shows is the former executive producer and creator Dan Schneider. Each actor shared the sentiment that they didn't feel comfortable expressing their disagreement with Dan Schneider. Hearn expressed that over time it began to feel like they were trapped in some kind of a torture chamber, unable to refuse or voice their discomfort. Another former child actor from the series, Giovanni Samuel, recounted a scene requiring them to consume large amounts of fake coffee and sugar, likening to experience to waterboarding. What the fuck? Yo, that is some fucking serious shit there, people. It says here that not only were the scenes... I'm sorry, stupid ass phone. I'm sorry. Not only were the scenes uncomfortable, but also the characters were subjected to inappropriate approaches, such as the character's last name, Penelope Tate, from The Amanda Show. A writer from the show revealed that in the writer's room, Schneider claimed that he would explain that being inspired by the verb taint, like tainted, but wanted to keep it the real meaning of the name as a secret, stating, "Don't tell what the word really means. In reference to the association with the male genitalia." What the fuck? What a sick fuck. From the accusations, Dan Schneider said, and I quote, "Everything that happened on the shows I ran was carefully scrutinized by the dozens of involved adults. All stories, dialogue, costumes, makeup were fully approved by the network executives on two coasts." Unquote. That's what Dan Schneider says. It says here, in a social media video, he later apologized about his role in the claims against him about a toxic workplace for child actors in the crew. But he's doing this now just to save face. This is just my opinion. If you're really sorry, if you did something you're really sorry, you apologize in private, in my opinion. Like, to me, to do a public apology, I don't know, it doesn't feel sincere. And for this guy to say, I apologize on camera, he's just trying to save face. And this right here, oh my God, this is a little bit damning. And I kind of feel like a little bit reading this, but I'm just reading it because that's what it says here. So viewer discretion advised. Pedophiles on set. The arguably most shocking reveal in the docuseries is that Nickelodeon had not one or two, but three pedophiles on set who were later convicted and fired. The first pedophile was production assistant Jason Handy, who was in charge of walking the kids around the set to where they needed to be. He was defined as a, quote, normal member of the crew, and even appeared on screen at the end of several episodes. One of the victims' mother spoke out at the series. She mentioned that Brandy, her 11-year-old daughter, and Jason began exchanging emails which initially seemed innocent. She would occasionally observe these emails between them. A few months later, her mother realized something was upsetting her daughter when she suddenly shut down the computer and rushed into her room. That day, she found out that Jason had emailed the 11-year-old girl. I'm just reading what it says here. So, an explicit picture of himself with a note saying that he wanted to see what he was thinking of her. What the? Oh man, that's fucking disgusting. I'm sorry, people. I'm just reading what it says here. And reading this, did Nickelodeon knew about that? Why would they hire those? Why would they hire those monsters? And right now with this, I don't know. I'm just like fucking absolutely speechless and reading this fucking shit right now. I'm sorry. I just feel like, oh my God. I just feel like, ugh, reading about that. It says here that the mother didn't press charges but withdrew her daughter from the industry the same day. Jason Handy was later arrested in 2003 for kissing and touching a 9-year-old girl and later convicted of child abuse and, oh my goodness, here comes the worst part, and child pornography with over 10,000 images of children, 1,768 images of young girls in erotic poses, 238 images in explicit poses, and more. Police found his diary in which he wrote, quote, "I am a full-blown pedophile. Eek, fuck my life. What the fuck? I even struggle on a day-to-day basis of how can I find a victim to rape if I have to," unquote. Just 4 months later, another pedophile was arrested, Brian Peck. I don't know what to say what I just read here. This is beyond the most damning thing I have fucking ever read. It says here that Brian Peck, the second pedophile, Drake Bell, John Doe victim of Brian Peck case revealed after 21 years. Brian Peck, better known as Pickle Boy, appeared on All That with the model Likes to Hurt and Tease Pickles. For the inappropriate reference, quote, "Dan just had a weird sense of humor," actors told themselves back in the day. Brian Peck's role was the dialogue coach on set, interacting with kids on set with more special care for Drake Bell, a 14-year-old actor from All That, who later started his own show, Drake and Josh. Previously worked with many famous actors, including Leonardo DiCaprio, Peck was hired by the Bell family as an acting coach for Drake Bell. And, quote, "He just seemed like any other nice co-worker," Drake recalls, who told his story for the first time on Quiet on Set. "As a kid, you have no clue, but my dad saw a mile away," unquote. Drake's father, who was his manager at the time, said that he believed Peck was, quote, "dangerous," and the wedge between them created an environment in which Peck would be the prey of Drake Bell, who was 14 years old at the time. Bell's father said that he went to production about his concerns about Peck, but he was labeled as, quote, "homophobic" by the cast because Brian Peck was openly gay and a little touchy-feely guy. Bell would later go on to fire on his father and live with his mother, who technically took over the managerial responsibilities in Orange County. But then Peck took on the role of driving the actor to and from the set auditions, sometimes keeping Bell at his home overnight. Bell said that's when the abuse began. Quote, "Everything changed one morning. He recalls waking up to see Peck sexually abusing him. Bell seemed visibly uncomfortable recounting the abuse, didn't go into detail on camera. That's for good. I'm glad he didn't, because that's like I can imagine Drake Bell telling what the fuck was going on. He was probably reliving the moment again, so I don't blame him for not going into detail. It became worse and worse and worse and worse, and I was just trapped," he said. "It became pretty brutal. While answering for the details, think of the worst stuff that someone could do to somebody as a sexual assault, and that will answer your question," he said. Later, he opened up to his mother. She called the police, who recorded Peck's full-on confession over the phone to Drake Bell. Brian was arrested in August 2003 for sodomy, forcible penetration, employment of a minor for pornography, and more. In another shocking reveal from the docuseries Confess, and convicted sexual predator Brian Peck was supported in his defense by big names in the industry. He later returned to the child entertainment industry after spending 16 months in prison? Are you fucking kidding me? You mean to tell me that this fucking monster that this dude is, Brian Peck, is still went back to work knowing what this dude did to that poor kid at that time? I guess it is true what they say, that Hollywood condones these fucking monsters. Oh man, I can't even. I feel for Drake Bell. But you know, it's funny that a lot of people were saying that why is Josh Peck was quiet about the whole thing. And it's funny that he did reach out to Drake Bell afterwards privately. Even Drake Bell confessed that he did. Josh Peck reached out to him. He just didn't do it on camera. Also Josh Peck defended Dan Schneider, but it created a huge backlash for the guy that I guess he just didn't have to defend him anymore. And I've seen videos of Dan Schneider being a fucking creep. And let me see if I think I have a. Let me see. Like I don't even know if I have it right here. Let me see. Oh my god. Okay, there's also a video here that it's circling all over YouTube. It says here that Josh Peck admits that he was paid to stay quiet following Quiet on Set backlash. And this kind of makes me wonder about that. Look, Jeanette McCurdy has spoken about Dan Schneider. But there's one big star who has stayed quiet, and they're probably saying that, look, people say, this is just my opinion. The one who has not spoken about this at all has been Ariana Grande. That says a lot, They probably, I'll bet dollars to donuts that Nickelodeon paid her a hefty amount of money for her just to stay quiet, And I've seen videos here that how before I got off track about that. I'm sorry. There's a video here that I saw it on Twitter. I believe it was when Miranda Cosgrove turned 18 because they were celebrating her birthday and they brought a cake. And there's a video of Dan Schneider comes up from behind and hugs her. That gave off a lot of creepy vibes. And there's a video here that says here that Jerry Trainer may have protected the iCarly cast from Dan Schneider. And listen to this, people. Let me see if it works.
Fans are applauding Jerry Trainer for protecting his young iCarly co-stars.
Let us go home, Dan.
So in resurfaced footage from the set, Jerry seemingly shielded his young co-stars from Dan Schneider. In one clip, Jerry even appears to block Dan from his on-screen sister Miranda Cosgrove during an uncomfortable moment. Dan Schneider is currently under fire as tons of former cast and crew have talked about the inappropriate environment on his sets. In her 2022 memoir, Jeanette McCurdy was one of the first child stars to come forward about what she endured while working with Dan Schneider. And even back then, Jerry had her back.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also, I felt a lot of pride for her being able to speak her truth.
Since the Quiet on Set docuseries dropped, Jerry has seemingly quietly made his stance known by unfollowing both the Nickelodeon and iCarly accounts on IG. But we have a feeling this is just the beginning of the Nick drama.
Y'all heard that? Oh my God! It's just, like this right here. I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that. Actually, hold on. I'm not going to say it right now. I'm just going to say it when I close. But continue with this article here. It says here, "Are kids safe in Hollywood now?" It says here that each actor in the series acknowledged and experienced psychological challenges as a child star. They were also on the same page that, quote, children should be protected in the industry. From self-esteem issues to dealing with addiction, most child stars do not get to have a childhood that kids are supposed to have. Katrina, from all that, defined her state of well-being being let go of the industry as, quote, burned out. Not everyone gets to be a normal afterwards because you don't know what that looks like, she said. There is a dark underbelly to a child's stardom, said Brian Hearn. Children are just a dollar sign when they show up on set. No one's talking about anyone's mental health seriously, and that's completely unfortunate. From what is clear from the child actor statements, there needs to be more support in terms of counseling, mental health, wellness checks, accordingly law enforcement, and psychological support for a permanent change. In reference to the documentary series, Nickelodeon has stated that, quote, investigates all former complaints as part of our commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace. We have adopted numerous safeguards over the years to help ensure we are living up to our own high standards and expectations of our audience. But you know, Nickelodeon right now needs to get their fucking shit straight. They really need to get their shit straight right now. After this shit happened right here, I don't know how people like like ever since this shit happened. And there's another one right here. It says here, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry if I'm bumbling right now. People who are listening to me, and I apologize. It's just like all this shit right now that I'm reading. It's just fucking mind blowing. You know? Like you know, another person. I don't know. Now that I think about this, ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Bynes. We all know how she has gone off the deep end. She has had like a lot of psychotic breaks. She's been going to school. She tattooed her face. She's acting all like, I don't mean to sound rude or anything like that, but she's been like acting all kooky and stuff, you know? And why do I have a feeling that all the shit that happened when she was in Nickelodeon during the constant of abuse from Dan Schneider made her go off the deep end? Has anyone ever thought about that? Because look at her now. I don't know how is she doing right now in this day and age mentally, because in the past he just went off the deep end. And I, like now thinking about Amanda Bynes, I really, really feel bad for her. And it's sad, because I watched her on TV. There's other stars that I have yet to hear about. A perfect example, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon was part of all that, and he hasn't said anything. Maybe it's because he was just there for just what they say, a cup of coffee. Another one I haven't heard anything about is Danny Tamborelli. He was part of the All That cast. Kenan Thompson. He did an interview about it. They asked him about that. He just said that he wishes well the people who talked about that. He just prays for them. The other one who I have not heard about is Kel Mitchell. I have not heard anything about him say about this Nickelodeon scandal that just happened right now. And Miranda Cosgrove, like all these, like Jeanette McCurdy, all these other people, I think they're just keeping on the down low because I just believe that they just don't want to talk about this thing just being dragged on right now. And this is another article. This is from the Guardian. It says here, quiet on set. Ex-Nickelodeon's child stars allege abuse and toxic culture. A 4-part docuseries details allegations tied to Dan Schneider's time at the network when hit programs The Amanda Show, iCarly, and Drake and Josh aired. Even in an unprecedented era of vigilance following the exposure of sexual predators Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby, the Me Too movement revelations from the Adult Survivors Act, Hollywood retains its capacity to shock. The latest scandal swept through the Tinseltown like a tornado this week, and it was not a good look for Nickelodeon, the doyen of children's television networks. The whirlwind was a 4-part documentary called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, streamed over 2 consecutive nights in the Investigation Discovery Network. What revealed blew away any notion that making children's television was an entirely wholesome process. Instead, it shone a harsh spotlight on pervasive toxic culture in the studio, the sexual and psychological abuse suffered by child stars in the 90s and early 2000s, and the misogyny and racism of the adults in charge. At its heart was once the lauded producer Dan Schneider, a man hailed, and this is what I said, quote, the Norman Lear of children's television. No fucking way. They shouldn't even compare this fucking fat slob, fat piece of shit to Norman Lear. for his creation of hit programs such as iCarly, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, and Victorious before his 2018 fall when the first allegations first came to light. And that's when he just walked away. It was nothing compared to what was happening after this docuseries aired. 6 years after he was fired, in the wake of the docuseries release, Schneider issued a groveling YouTube apology on Tuesday. He apologized to those he offended during a quarter of a century as Nickelodeon's undisputed, untouchable commander of kids television. He promised to be better. Well, too late, you fat piece of shit. To the victims of some who fell prey to the onset pedophiles or whose trauma evolved to anxiety, depression, alcoholism, or mental breakdowns as they grew older, apologies aren't enough. Exactly. Why the fuck would you say apologies now, especially on camera? They just want to save face. If you really are, if a person really is sorry for doing something really fucked up, they should do it in privately and do that. But to me, on camera, I don't know. It just doesn't feel sincere. It lacks sincerity, people. And it says here that a lot of the people that are talked about in the documentary and the networks we're still talking about are still in existence. They're still engaged in the same programming, so I would hope things would change, that it will overhaul how Nickelodeon works, said Sachi Cole, a popular culture journalist and consultant for Quiet on Set. Fundamentally, I hope it makes them fully reinvestigate how they employ these kids. I'm realistic. They're not going to say we're going to kill this programming, but I hope it will force them to reorganize how they do it. There's a lot of people involved in the story and have a conversation with themselves about what they could have done, what they failed to do when it comes to children. You should be able to ask for accountability forever until they get it. The documentary is not the first to question Schneider's closeness with a young cast member such as Amanda Bynes, who he was filmed sharing a hot tub when she was 13 in a bikini, or the sexualized jokes he had children perform. Oh, what the fuck? Are you serious? That fucker needs to get locked up and throw away the fucking key. It says here, and also, in her 2022 biography, Jeanette McCurdy, star of iCarly, who played opposite teenage Ariana Grande in his spin-off Sam and Cat, recounted how Schneider, who she did not name at that time, had her drink alcohol underage, massaged her shoulders, and made her feel uncomfortable by insisting she wore a small bikini in the show at the age of 15. Scenes involving Grande at the roughly the same age have also previously come under scrutiny, including the one that had her attempting to squeeze a potato squeeze juice from a potato that she was fondling. And this is where they played this clip to Mark Summers, and he said, "Did they air this on Nickelodeon?" Which is like that. That to me is very inappropriate. What Quiet on Set achieves is pulling together fragmented episodes and anecdotes from a dark period during which Schneider reigned supreme. It's a comprehensive account of his failures and those of others, which allow exploitation and abuse of children to flourish. And this is where it gets very, very like dark. And I talked about it in the other article, and I'm sorry. Please. One episode tells the story of Drake Bell, child star of the Amanda Show, and Drake and Bell, who identify themselves as a victim of Brian Peck. I'm not going to get into that anymore. I read that in the first part. I'm not going to read it anymore. It says here that Bell, now 37, how he was groomed by Peck while starring on the Amanda Show and how it went unnoticed until it was too late. Bell said his later troubles, including alcoholism, bankruptcy, and conviction for child endangerment stemmed from the trauma. Peck was in, they mentioned this one right here, Jason Handy. I read this one already in the first part. A third, this is one I did not even know about this. A third employee, animator Ezel Chanel, whatever, however you pronounce it, fuck him, went to prison for more than 7 years for his 2009 conviction for sexually abusing teenage boys at the studio. In addition to Bell, Several other former child stars spoke about their experiences in the series. Brian Hearn, a black actor and all that, said he was racially abused, then fired when his mother spoke up. It says here that Giovanni Samuel said that she was considered the, quote, the token black girl on set. And Alexa Nicolas, former star of Soy 101, appeared in a documentary and later even streamed her own lengthy response to Schneider's apology. Quote, and this is what she said. That wasn't a proper accountability. That was avoiding of the main discussions that were mentioned in Quiet on Set. That was him playing the sympathy card, centering himself playing the victim, she said. And I agree. They're all saying, I'm sorry, I should have been better. They should have thought about that way before they did all those fucking heinous things, you know? Schneider, it says here that Schneider parted with Nickelodeon in 2018 after McCurdy's revelation prompted an internal inquiry. No evidence of sexual misconduct was found, but Nickelodeon's parent company, Viacom CBS, said he was prone to tantrums and verbal abuse. In his video, Schneider said, watching was very difficult, facing my past behaviors, some of which were embarrassing and I regret, and I definitely owe some people some pretty strong apologies. He maintained jokes in his shows were never intentionally sexualized. Everyone was written for a kid audience. Now you have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through the lens, he said. Nickelodeon said in a statement reported by Variety, quote, it could not corroborate, negate allegations of behaviors from productions decades ago. Our highest priorities are well-being and the best interests not just of our employees and cast and crew, but of all children, and we have adopted numerous safeguards and over the years to ensure we are living up to the high standards and expectations of audience, the company said. Mary Robertson, one of the documentary's co-directors, told The Hollywood Reporter she thought Quiet on Set was much more than the story of just one network and its failure to keep children safe. I think we're in a moment as a culture where we're reflecting more often, perhaps understanding more deeply the downside to fame, she said. In the case of Quiet on Set, we're paying more attention to what it seems for these child actors to experience incredibly high highs, incredibly low lows, and they're experiencing those as children. We look at them, what it means for them to exist in an environment where they're celebrated and where they get to have fun and sometimes sing and dance and tell funny jokes, where boundaries are set blurred, where it's hard for them to have agency and to feel comfortable speaking out. Oh, my goodness. Reading this right now, all these articles and watching all these videos on YouTube about Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I am a complete loss for words. Like right now, I don't think I could ever see Nickelodeon the same way ever again. And you know, like the one that really surprised me was that guy who was sentenced to 16 months in jail and he's back right now working. I don't fucking condone that. Nickelodeon should not condone that. In my opinion, okay, Viacom CBS really, really needs to do their fucking shit in check. Why did they keep these fucking monsters in the studio knowing that they're gonna prey on other victims, you know? Because like, especially if they're working on with children, they're gonna say all that. They're just gonna keep doing this shit over and over, and someone has to put a stop to that. And you know, okay, look, when it comes to child actors, that is like even like when I was a kid, I used to watch movies and a lot of things. And I saw like a lot of kids acting in movies. I firmly believe that children are not meant to be child actors. I mean, that's just my opinion. Kids to me are supposed to just be a kid, you know, have fun, go to school, play games, or have fun, not just go straight to work and like in children's programming. You know, I don't think they don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. They're just gonna be staying up all hours, working. Instead of doing that, they should be like they want to go play and with their friends and all that stuff, but they can't because they have to work. It's just like with the music industry. Like I'll give you an example. Michael Jackson. He said that in the documentary of Living with Michael Jackson that he used to, like, when he was recording in the studio and he used to see like the kids playing across the street, they were playing baseball, and he used to see that, he used to go or watch that, and he used to put his hand on his face and cry because he didn't really have a childhood, you know? And that's the same thing goes with child actors. I don't think child actors are supposed to be working, you know. They're supposed to have fun. They're not supposed to be doing that, you know. Adults are a different story, you know. That's just the way I feel. And like right now, you know, me personally, with this new documentary that they released, I personally believe that they opened up Pandora's box. Because once this shit was released, there's going to be more. Because to me, it like they mentioned Harvey Weinstein, whatever the fuck that dude's name is, Bill Cosby. I personally believe that they opened up Pandora's box because I think they're gonna see there's gonna be other companies that are condoning this monstrous behavior, you know. And I personally believe that shit needs to change, you know. I think that kids are supposed to be more protected now more than ever. Ever since the Me Too movement has happened, I personally believe that there should be more things to protect kids now. Like, what's going to happen to Nickelodeon right now? I don't know. All I can say is that whatever happens, especially with this fat fuck piece of shit, Dan Schneider, his apologies are meaningless to me, in my opinion. If he created that, I think he should do more than a fucking apology. I personally believe that if they do more of an investigation and they find out that this dude was behind doing all this stuff. He says that he denies all these allegations and all this stuff. I personally believe that. I really do hope that Dan Schneider gets held accountable, and these other monsters who did all these horrible things to these kids. I mean, I know a couple of them are in jail, but the one who was released 16 months after. That's not right, you know. That right there, reading that gave me goosebumps. It's just fucking mind-blowing. How is it possible they allowed that guy to go back and work with kids again, knowing what this son of a bitch did? It's beyond ridiculous. I can't even. I don't even want to use the word ridiculous. You know, they need to find that guy and just be banned permanently. There needs to be done more, in my opinion. So, like, you know, like reading this stuff right now, thinking about this, will I watch a documentary quiet on set? Now I'm a little bit like hesitant to to just watch it. You know, I would say I would feel extremely uncomfortable watching that. I don't think I would have the balls to watch that. You know, just reading what happened to Drake Bell. I personally believe that I don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could watch this documentary. And for the people who watched it, you guys, you people have kudos. God give you guys kudos, because I don't think when it comes to especially what happens to women and children, and when it has to do with sexual assault and rape, that's a no-no for me. And whenever I hear stories like that, it just breaks my heart, because they feel helpless, you know. They're just, like my girl says, they're all fucking dirtbags. So in conclusion, no, I probably won't watch this documentary, because it's just it's hard, you know. So in closing argument, one of my favorite wrestlers said this: everyone pays the piper in this life. There's consequences for your actions. And you, Dan Schneider, you're going to pay for it very dearly. It may not happen right now, but later on in life, you're going to fucking pay for all the I firmly believe you were all behind all this stuff. If you did all that shit, motherfucker, you're going to fucking pay for that. Life doesn't forget, you know, because life always remembers all the fucking bullshit that people did. Because if you do bad things will come back to you. If you do good things will come to you. But if you did like something bad, it'll come back 10 times worse. That's just the way I see it, you know. Life won't fucking forget. So I just want to say, oh well. So that about wraps up for this week's episode from my podcast, and I just want to say thank you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel reading this shit, I felt extremely uncomfortable. But it was just like, because I wanted to give my opinion about that. Fuck all these guys who are behind all that. They did all these horrible things to these kids, you know. Fuck Dan Schneider. Fuck all those child molesters that were working on Nickelodeon. Fuck y'all. Fucking pieces of shit. That's just the way I say. So I just want to say good night, and thank you for listening. And for those people who do listen, I want to say this episode, viewer discretion is advised. You know, I just read what I saw. That's something that's fucking unacceptable to me. So, all right. I want to say thank you for listening, and I'll see y'all next week, and have a good night. Bye-bye.